So with me today, I have David Warshaw. He's a certified financial planner and founder of the Wealth Plan. So David, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. You have a nice organized method from your website on meeting with everybody each quarter and then kind of going over different financial planning items each time. So can you maybe walk us through the process and the different items that you cover at each meeting?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, first off, thanks so much for having me. Super exciting to be a guest. I'm a big fan of Adam Coleman, and it's an honor to be doing this with you. So, I've been doing this now for 19 years. I started right out of college in 2004. So, I'm 42 years old. I think I've learned a couple things along the way. And my biggest pain point as an advisor was I personally love investing. And I found that I was always talking about that over time, even though, I'm a CFP and comprehensive planning has always been my bag. What I was seeing was clients were really just gravitating towards, let's talk about the portfolio. How are we doing? What changes should be made? And I think like around 2009 or 10, I remember a veteran Ameriprise advisor where I first started did a seasonal review. And I remember liking it at the time, but like, whatever. What does he know? So I thought I knew better. I was very young and spunky. Well, he was right and I was wrong. And now, starting 2023, I really rolled out and I'm revamping my website as we speak, the 4 seasons of planning framework. And for me, Q1 winter time, we're discussing retirement and cash flow. Springtime is Q2. We're talking about tax planning and insurance optimization. Q3 is summertime, estate planning and assistance to loved ones. And Q4 is investment planning and account reviews. So this way, every quarter, there's a different topic, there's a different focus that hopefully clients will get motivated to meet, and it doesn't become the same. So, how'd the market do this year? How's my portfolio? What do you think about next year? But those are the kind of the 4 seasons, and I really like this framework, and I really think it's going to lead to just happier clients.
Was there any rhyme or reason to what each quarter was based on?
That's a good question. I actually changed it a couple of times. Yeah, I mean, it was estate planning and insurance optimization. And I was like, that's big topics. So I just said estate planning and assistance to loved ones kind of goes together. Like, why would you even bother working on your estate documents and discussing asset transfer? It's because ultimately you want to help your loved ones, right?
Right.
But the reality is just tax and insurance could be 2, 3 meetings, depending on how detailed the case is. So it really just depends, but at least you're starting the conversation. And one other thing I think is important is I'm trying now with, Loom to put out educational videos before the meeting. So let's get all the education and the 101 stuff done first. That way, when you come to the meeting, it's now more about you. Like you kind of get it. You might have 5 questions and we can kind of tackle those as opposed to me saying, hey, how do assets transfer? What are the 4 mechanisms to transfer assets?
I guess you don't have to go into a huge deep dive into each one of these, but what are the kind of the major touch points for retirement and cash planning that you want to make sure you kind of go over with each of your clients?
Yeah. So this is really where there's just so many amazing softwares out there and technologies. And as an advisor, it's like you almost kind of become a software technologist because you're always learning about new tools that could help clients. So I can't tell you how many tools I've tried, got rid of, kept. But retirement and cash flow really starts with the financial plan. That's probably one of the most important modules, one of the most important seasons. So I use Right Capital. So that's kind of the client dashboard, the document vault. All of their accounts can be linked there. It runs cash flow projections. We could discuss budgeting. And at the end of the day, it's are you on track to that retirement goal, which is a big goal for most of my clients. Now, I'm also using a secondary tool called Income Lab because what I've found over the years is you talk about Monte Carlo simulations and 30-year cash flow projections. And like even me as a practitioner, it's a lot to digest. And one
Right.
input change of, well, your investments grew instead of at 5%, 7, you have a very different plan. So Income Lab, I think is great. And it just tells the client the magic number, like, hey, this is your portfolio. Don't take out more than this a month. That's it.
Right.
And that resonates with people. So that's retirement and cash flow planning.
For tax planning, obviously, I think that goes without saying kind of what you're handling on that. But I guess, are there any major items that people should think about tracking throughout the year before they meet with you when it comes to tax planning that would help their situation out?
Yeah, so tax planning, listen, I've been one of these guys, like I really hate taxes. I really always found it mind-numbing and confusing. So I use Holistiplan here. Holistiplan has been a godsend. And Holistiplan, you basically upload the tax return and it spits out a simple, easy to understand, digestible report. So you could have really meaningful conversations with clients of proactive, forward thinking tax planning as opposed to always being reactive and like, well, what do I owe? Clients' eyes have lit up from this report and they just make that tool better and better. They continuously invest in the tool. So I think it's wonderful for clients. I think every advisor should use it. So that's where Holistiplan leads. And then that could lead into another meeting with the tax preparer to be like, hey, what do you think about this? What are we missing here? And insurance optimization, I just want to make sure that the clients across life, disability, long-term care, property and casualty, and their health insurance, they're doing the right things, right? So I personally specialize more in the life, long-term care, and disability side. Property and casualty, I refer out, but there's a lot of just general advice with the insurance because I just don't want clients overpaying or being underinsured, frankly, there.
Right.
Estate planning. Estate planning is a very educational module of just how does asset transfer work? And this has been the year where I've kind of partnered with like 4 or 5 different estate planning platforms, Estate Guru, Trust and Will, Wealth.com, and Encore Estate Plan. So I've partnered with all of them. So over the last few years, there's been a major push for the advisor to disintermediate the attorney because attorneys are expensive. It's not a unified product. If you go to Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts, like what you're going to get, right?
Right.
You don't really have that with law. So after demoing and being on all these platforms, I've really loved Trust and Will. Now, next year, I may say a different tool, but at the end of the day, once the client knows what documents they need and they understand how asset transfer works, they should get their documents updated or created. And I think for now, Trust and Will, I just think is a low-cost platform, wonderful user experience, a UI that's beautiful. You could talk to an attorney for the year for $200. And I have not seen that on any other platform. So it's a mad rush. They're all competing with each other. There are some other advantages to other platforms, but now I can try to drive through Trust and Will the estate document creation. And then assistance to loved ones. That's more of a dialogue. There's no tool specific for that, but at least that I'm using. But it's more like, hey, I want to help my kids. Okay, well, how do you help your kids? What are the different accounts you could open? What does that look like? Charity. You could talk about qualified charitable distributions. You could talk about donor advised funds. Post-mortem planning. Have you done any post-mortem planning? Did you write an obituary? Do you want to be cremated? Did you prepay for funeral services? So it's really kids, charity, and then some post-mortem planning. That's in that. And then lastly, like investments and account reviews. This is obviously the most fun and exciting, but it's like how we did. I use a portfolio accounting system called Panoramics. We don't have to rely on statements. We have the numbers. What's our strategy breakdown? What are we doing for next year? And then listen, even though I may not directly manage accounts for all of my clients' accounts, they have 401k plans. I'm looking at all of them, giving them advice and my thoughts on every single one to the extent they want me to. So Q4 is obviously a big meeting, and that's what we're into right now in the fall time.
Gotcha. Or how long are each of these meetings typically?
Typical meeting is about an hour, hour and a half. But you have to know your clients. Some people check out after 30 minutes. They're busy. They're doing a Zoom with you at work. So,
Right.
but I honestly think each quarter you probably really want 2 hours if you could get it from the client because they're busy. But I mean, the reality is the estate planning, once you do that meeting and clients really get it, yeah, that's a probably very quick meeting the following year. It doesn't have to be
Right.
that long.
Because that's not something you necessarily have to update every single year in a lot of cases, unless something's changed, right?
That's exactly right. The estate, if their beneficiaries are correct and up to date, and they have newly created docs a year old, I say, you really update those documents every few years. Or if there's a major life change, hey, I want to change my beneficiary, my trustee, my executor. I've moved, right? So now I'm in a new domicile state, right? So I think it's always a good conversation because people honestly forget. I mean, there's a lot there. That's why people work with attorneys.
Right.
If the tax rules change, right? I mean, that could have a huge impact on everyone's estate plan. So I think ultimately, yeah, some seasons are less relevant to people than other seasons. Like, listen, if we just did a retirement plan in 2024, in 2025, and if you're 40 years old, you might not be stressing that much about the differential of your
Right.
retirement. But hey, you're five. Yeah, you probably do care 1 year to the next of how you're tracking, especially as your situations change. But at least the retirement, it's always good to update the plan with new balances, fresh data, if you're not aggregating through, Plaid.
Anything that you've seen, kind of additional items that aren't covered in these that you're kind of seeing pop up occasionally where you still have to go through it at least on a yearly basis?
So that's a great question. And I'm just being very real with you. If I could get these 4 meetings with most of my clients, I mean, that's incredible, right?
Right.
But yeah, there's tons of other topics. I'm now using Monday.com as kind of a thinking board and a repository for all my knowledge and articles and data and PDFs and everything. Like cybersecurity, housing, liabilities, life events, life planning, firm updates. There's a lot of different topics that will come up. And I have a module built out for that. But most of these can kind of be fit underneath the 4 seasons. So, for example, cybersecurity. One thing I forgot to mention is who else could you help other than your kids in a charity? Your parents, right? So, okay, what about your parents' estate plan? Are you helping them with their cybersecurity? What does that even mean, right? A lot of scams out there, today, or a lot of people just get taken advantage of. Client called me and asked me, if his dentist was overcharging him. And I was like, I don't know. I called one of my buds who's a dentist, and I'm hoping he goes meets with him to get a second opinion before he drops a crazy amount of money on dental work. So most of secondary topics can fit snugly in the 4 seasons. But yeah, I'm really loving this Monday.com, and it really helps me organize my thinking. So I have my bullets and workflows ready to go in the conversation.
Perfect. Well, no, this has been really helpful. I appreciate you going through all that. If somebody wanted to get more information about you and your firm, what's the best way to learn more?
Sure, just give me a call, 516-400-7111, 516-400-7111. My office is in Great Neck, New York. I moved to Florida for 2 years for the sunshine, but my wife and I missed the friends and family, so now we're back. My office is in Long Island and Great Neck. Website is www.thewealthplan.com. A brand new version of that is coming out in the next month or two, which I'm excited about. The 4 seasons will be a lot more center stage, because that is kind of my new niche and how I like to work with people. And don't be shy. Call me with any questions. I'm always here to help. And there's never a bad question, except if you don't ask one. So just call.
Absolutely. Well, no, this is great. I'm looking forward to seeing what the website is. I'll put the link on the description as well. And I certainly appreciate you taking the time.
Pleasure, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, David.